Today we're talking about septic systems, what you need to know as a home buyer and seller. So let's get started. When buying and selling a home with a septic system in Massachusetts, there are a few things you need to know to make sure the sale goes through. Probably your first question is, do I need a Title V inspection no matter what? And the answer is no, there are exceptions. You do not need an inspection when the house title transfers between spouses, between parents and children, between full siblings, and when the property is held in trust, refinancing, any other change in ownership when no new parties are introduced, or when the property owner has signed an enforceable agreement with the Board of Health to connect to a sewer system within the next 2 years. And finally, if the property is subject to a comprehensive septic system inspection. If those caveats don't exist, then yes, you do need a Title V inspection, and it must pass. So it may be helpful to understand how the systems are designed and what can or cannot fail. Just as a home serviced by a city sewer system, all the pipes in the house eventually go to one main pipe. That main wastewater pipe then takes the water and the solids out of the house. On a sewer line, it goes to a city sewer pipe and then is pumped to a treatment plant where the black water and the gray water and the solids are separated and treated. For a septic system, the black and gray water and solids go to a huge concrete box. And once the concrete box, otherwise called the holding tank, fills with water and the solids go to the bottom of the tank, and they remain there until it's professionally pumped, which is every 2 to 3 years. The water then is pushed through a distribution box called a D-box for short, which distributes the water to a system of pipes that is fed into the yard. This is where the design of the systems vary, and some towns require 2 holding tanks. Once the water is ready to be dispersed into the piping system, there are seepage pits or leach fields. A seepage pit can absorb the black water, also called clarified effluent, and gray water. So the septic tank retains the solids and the grease and the floating scum along with the effluent, and it enters into the seepage pit for disposal into the soil. Seepage pits are dug vertically into the ground to collect the wastewater from the septic tank. Most seepage pits are built so that at least 4 to 6 feet of soil covers the top of the pit. The pit is buried so deeply into the ground, most of the wastewater processing is done by anaerobic bacteria. The seepage pit is made of poured cast concrete and is surrounded by rocks so the wastewater can percolate into the ground after processing. If the seepage pit fails, the untreated wastewater will flow back into the residence. A seepage pit requires regular inspection and pumping so the biomat at the bottom of the pit does not become so thick and prevent permeation of the treated water into the soil. Every 3 to 5 years, seepage pits may need to be pumped. And by the way, this is also recommended for all septic systems. A seepage pit is designed to receive the clarified effluent and black water from a septic tank, or if the pit only receives gray water, then it is called a dry well. Gray water is water from sinks, laundry, and showers, everything except the toilet. It may be helpful to define 4 terms here because sometimes when you read articles, some writers use terms as synonyms, and there are distinctions that can help you understand existing septic designs. The first is a cesspool. A cesspool is a ground in the hole lined with site-built or manufacturer perforated sides or an open bottom that receives raw sewage and black water, including the solids and the liquids, and allowing the effluent to seep out of the cesspool into the surrounding soils. There are no separate effluent disposal systems with a cesspool. A cistern is a holding tank above or below ground and is used for storing clean water or drinking water or other household uses and has nothing to do with a septic system. A dry well is a hole in the ground lined with site-built or manufactured perforated sides and bottom that receives gray water or other non-sewage water such as roof drainage, so there isn't any black water or effluent. A seepage pit is what we were just discussing. The other way water is dispersed is through a leach field, which lays horizontal in the yard. One way to identify the location is that there is a vent pipe that is required. So this is where the pipes lie in the yard. Just as the pit, the leach field or drainage field is a network of perforated pipes that are laid underground in gravel-filled trenches, and they dissipate the effluent from the water-based collection. The main thing to understand is that no matter the drainage system, all the designs incorporate gravel that disperses the water into the soil so that the water is absorbed and filters the water naturally before going into the watershed below our homes. Think of it this way. A soil in a wetland will not be able to absorb as much water as, say, soil in the desert. A lot of buyers tell me they don't like the hump of the septic system in the yard, but the hump is an integral part of the system. So if you really don't like the hump, then you probably need to buy a house serviced on a sewer line. As a side note, if you are buying or selling a house with a well and a septic, there are distance requirements required by the two systems so they can operate properly. The schematic of the seepage pit shown here shows typical construction of site-built seepage pit using brick and block and precast concrete with open joints surrounded by stone. Now you know basically how systems are designed. So what about the Title V test? It is now required for sellers to provide a passing Title V report. The law was changed because a lot of transactions fell apart because systems failed and either the buyer or the bank didn't want to move forward with the purchase. So now it's the seller's responsibility. And this test is typically around $800. The Title V tests are done during normal usage of the property, so toilets, flushing, laundry, showers, etc. However, some houses are vacant, so the soil has had time to dry out, so to speak, and it's harder to determine if normal usage of the system would show signs of failing. This is very important for a buyer to understand, and the buyer needs a contingency plan should the system fail under normal usage. The day of the test should include a discussion of the history of the system, the size of the household, review of the permit system. Usually, they charge you extra if they have to dig out the lid, so be aware of that. The inspector will evaluate the tank and the associated water use. No leaks or cracks can be in the tank, and the inspector will dig test pits 2 to 3 feet down to check for signs of standing water or biomat growth for the drain field test. The D-box will also be inspected to ensure all the mechanical equipment is in good working order. Inside the home, they'll flush the toilets, run the sinks, and the washing machine through a full cycle to see if the household plumbing is all working correctly. The report takes about a week, and the inspector must use the approved inspection form and provide the report to the governing health department within 30 days of the inspection. The buyer or the other person acquiring the property must also be given a copy of this inspection report. One thing you can do as a buyer is you can go to the town hall to see when the initial system was installed so you can determine likely if there will be problems in the future. For sellers, oftentimes sellers put the house on the market and haven't completed the Title V test, which can be a risk if the septic system fails. It's a big expense and a time delay. Some towns take the full 90 days for review and approval, as many of the towns don't hire full-time staff or they share environmental engineers for a specific region. Then there is the installation and then the final approval, which can add several weeks. It's a good idea to get a few prices too, because there is a cost for the engineering drawings, about $2,000, permit costs and installation costs. For the installation costs, there can really be a big range. I've seen everything from $11,000 to $30,000 for the same system. Not always do sellers have the luxury to do the Title V test and then take the process slow. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow. If you're planning to move in a few years from now, know that once the test is completed, it's valid for 2 years. Unless it's pumped annually, then it's valid for 3 years. After that time frame, you have to redo the test. Loan options and tax credits. I'm glad you asked. If you don't have cash handy to repair or replace the system, there is a loan program in Massachusetts of participating lenders that offer low interest rates to eligible homeowners. Some septic installers will also be paid out of closing proceeds, but that is part of the negotiation of the real estate agent, and usually there is a document that needs to be provided by an attorney as well to secure a payment. So Massachusetts offers a septic tax credit. When installing a new system, there is a state tax credit from the Commonwealth, and the amount changes over time, and I want this video to be timeless, so go to our blog post and see about the credits and the associated amounts. We have the link here. One thing that drives me crazy about Title V is the septic system is based on the size of the bedroom count. Every town also has a different definition of bedrooms as well. From a health and sanitary standpoint, when I was an urban planner, a person is only required to have 50 square feet of living space, which is very small for today's standards. Some professionals have the perspective that the system is taxed by the number of occupants, but I think the jury is out on that, because you could have a family of 6 kids and put bunk beds in the bedrooms with 3 bedrooms. It may not just be one person per bedroom, right? I often see a listing sheet for a home for sale with a 3-bedroom septic, but the sellers have converted one of the rooms so it's 4 bedrooms. So be aware of the idiosyncrasies and look at the floor plan to see how you're going to buy and sell the property. Are houses sold with failing septic systems? The answer is yes. But typically those properties are sold to contractors or developers who have plans or means to replace the system. For example, if an older home is going to be demolished and a new subdivision is going to be built where there are many homes, any part of the septic system can fail. And if one part fails, then sometimes it's just an individual component that needs to be replaced. Oftentimes in Massachusetts, it's the D-box that needs to be repaired or replaced. It's rare the concrete holding tank fails, but the inspection does look at the box to make sure it's operating correctly. Maintenance tips. One of the most important steps that you can take is limiting the use of water, which can improve the operation of the septic system and reduce the risk of failure. Install water-saving devices such as low-flow shower heads and toilets. Repair leaky faucets and toilets immediately. A leaky toilet can cause a good septic system to fail very quickly. Do not put paint thinners and other chemicals in your septic system. They destroy the naturally occurring microbes in your septic system, which are necessary for it to function properly. Keep grease, fat, and food waste out of your septic system as much as possible. Garbage systems may not be used with the septic system unless they have been specifically designed to accommodate garbage disposal. Don't allow vehicles or equipment to drive over or park on the drain field. This may compact the soil and crush the piping. Don't plant anything over the disposal field except grass. And don't cover the drain field with asphalt or concrete. Use a septic-safe toilet and septic-safe toilet paper. And don't flush anything other than waste and toilet paper. I hope this video has helped you, and if you have any questions about septic systems, please reach out to me. I'm Julie Marion with Hoddle Real Estate, where we buy and sell every home as it is our own. Make it a great day.